I thought it was trying to prove something to my dad, right? Because my parents had a company growing up
Mhm.
that kind of just fell apart. So I thought it was to prove something to them. I never want to get arrested again, right? Because that's no fun. Or seeing your name in the newspaper or people saying bad things about you.
For sure.
3 weeks ago, I was like, dude, you gotta lose some weight, bro. You know what I mean? So, you know, because once you start diving deep, you're like, who the hell is this guy?
We just, before we went here and started recording, you started talking about the manifesto, the affirmations that you write for yourself. Why do you do that?
Because it's good to always, write out your goals as a leader, as a person, and always stick to it. Every morning while I'm at the gym, we have a home gym at home. And every day I look at that and remind myself why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it's crazy to be a business owner, as you know, especially as an emergency service business owner when you're working long days and you always got to be ready for anything and somehow balance fatherhood, business ownership, and, being a good partner.
Yeah. Right.
So,
I heard something interesting today. I'm in this weird phase, and I've shared it a bunch of times on my show with people, where I don't know where I stand on faith. Like, I believe in God, right? And I pray and I know that there's something bigger. But then sometimes my actions don't align with that. Some of the things that I do and choose to do because I enjoy the gratification of what the world gives you. That being, going out and having drinks with friends, or, eating a certain way. And I wrestle with the alignment that should be or should not be. And with faith is believing in something that you don't see, right? With your manifesto, these are things that you've aligned. Basically, you're trying to align with what you are trying to accomplish, your goals, right? But what I heard earlier today is that we are trying to attach these goals for some sort of monetary value. Now, I don't look at it that way. I heard it and I thought it was a interesting take, because for me, someone who came from New London and had a single mom and didn't have things handed to me, I had to work for everything that I have, which I'm very proud of. I look around with everything that I have now and I'm like, man, I'm blessed. I'm thankful. I don't attach it to that. I don't attach like success to that. I don't attach success to money, but a lot of us do. And it made me kind of think, because Dave Ramsey said you can't attach spiritual things to the unspiritual things that you get. Basically, you want everything spiritually inside. And I'm just speaking for myself, not for you, but you want everything inside for me. I want to be as good as I can be. I want to be a leader. I want to be an influence, if you will. But you can't do that solely thinking that your success is attached to money. And it made me stop, because I'm like, man, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing the content. I'm doing the, I want to make all this money. But what is that going to get me ultimately? It's going to make me happy? Yeah, I don't know. So like with the manifesto, when you think of your goals and the things that you're lining up, what do you attach that to?
Well, I think in order to be successful or to be a successful leader, you have to dive deep. It starts with yourself. It doesn't start like, if you read that book that I shared with you, I Am Leader, the first part of the book is I am, right? So it dives deep into figuring out who you are, which is where I got the idea of creating a manifesto, because you have to figure out who you are as a person, which doesn't come from money. It comes from, let me stop for a second. A lot of the things that form who you are as a person is from the trauma that you experienced as a child, and, what made you start to behave and act the way that you do today, or, some of the things that we did growing up that we aren't super proud of, right?
Yeah.
So I found when I started my company, I wasn't the best leader, because it was a very chaotic time, and I didn't know how to deal with the stress of leading a pack of people, right? So it wasn't until probably 2 years ago that I really actually was like, all right, whatever I'm doing is not working, because I'm pretty much just staying stagnant.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to dive deep within yourself, because it's not the money that's going to make you happy, because you could have millions in the bank account and not be happy still, which I've been there.
So interesting. So it's interesting you said that. So in that same episode, there was a caller. You know Dave Ramsey is, right?
Yeah.
He's the life insurance guy and whatever. Well, actually, I don't know if he's a life insurance guy, but more of a financial guy, right?
Investment, yeah.
Yeah. So he goes and takes a call from a call. He's like, yeah, the guy goes, I'm 37. Me and my wife just hit 7 figures. We have a family, and I just want to know, like, why I feel unhappy. And Dave Ramsey goes, congratulations, sir. You just realized, or you just met the point where you realize that money is not attached to success, and money is not attached to happiness. When you go through this and you're trying to figure out why am I, what makes me happy and why am I unhappy? Because if you're not, you're one or the other, right?
Yep.
And you're going through this. And let me backtrack. The reason why I'm going this direction is because I want to create a space with the show, with people, regarding mental health and the importance of what mental health is. What you're describing is a mental health balance that you were going through, or imbalance that you were going through during this time. And I'm leading with this because I think a lot more people need to hear it and say, it's okay, right? Like, there's no wall that you hit that you can't get over, right? It might feel hard, it might feel difficult to break through the wall, which that wall isn't that wall, that wall is here, right? It's peeling back the onion. So that's why I'm going this direction. Actually, think about the open exchange. At first I thought like, oh, it's the open exchange ideas, which it is. It's always going to be that, the ideas, thoughts, business, whatever the case might be. And, politics, sports, whatever. But I really want to lean into this. I think it's important. With you and what you're going through at that time, like, you said you have to really, dive in, break, kind of rip that out. Like, what's that process like, man? I think that a lot of people will ignore the actual fundamentals and ignore how they're actually feeling. Like, they think, like, I drank water today, I worked out, blah, blah, blah. But that's not just it, man. It's day to day, right? You got to remind yourself day to day. It's not easy. You still feel the weight. Sometimes, some days feels lighter, some days don't, because nothing changes from your day to day. You're growing a business, you have a family, you have a spouse, you're on call 24/7. There's a lot of things you got to deal with.
I think a lot of people are lazy because it's really hard to dive deep into yourself, and it's easier just to say, like, I had a busy day, it's time to go sit on the couch, or avoid the things that they have to do because it's a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So for one, you're right, like working out and eating well, that's just a start. I think that we all need some type of structure or routine in their lives, which I started to get back into about 3 weeks ago, just heavy working out and heavy eating good. Sure. Like, so 6 meals a day. I actually just signed on. I don't know if you know Josh Landry. So
I don't know if I know Josh. No.
So he's training myself and basically, 6 meals a day, very minimal food, just more of like boosting your metabolism. But I was maybe eating 1 or 2 meals a day before, just because I was so stressed out.
Yeah, you look good, bro, by the way. You look pretty good.
Yeah, you can't function mentally or physically at this pace that we're functioning without taking care of yourself and feeding yourself proper nutrition. So just by doing the last 3 weeks, I feel like 10 times clearer because we're functioning on caffeine, because it gives us that quick satisfaction of like, hey, like, I got to get through this day, dude. Like, especially being a dad, like we sleep like maybe 5 hours a night while working the other 20.
I got a newborn right now too, so
so I think it all stems within you, like, because if you're not good inside, you're not going to be a leader, and if you're not eating right, you're not going to have the energy to do what you got to do. Because in my circumstance, I got about 15 people who look up to me on a daily basis, right? If I don't have every morning we have a teams meeting, right? So if I'm not on my game at 9 o'clock for that teams meeting, the whole day is going to be horrible, right? Like, my ops manager is not going to know what she's doing for the day. We're not going to be able to, we call it season the day, where we maximize our sales calls for next week. because we want to make a certain amount of money per day per technician, right? So if I don't oversee that and train my staff to make sure that happens, and I'm not clear-minded, we're going to lose money, right? Or we're not going to be as efficient as possible. And again, it's not all about the money, but it's about creating the team so that the business runs without you.
Yeah.
Because if it can't run without you, you're going to run yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
Right? So it all starts with yourself, because if you start with yourself, I don't know if you've seen pictures of my gym, but we have like probably half the wall is covered with Post-it notes the size of
I didn't see that.
Computer screen.
That's cool.
So we have 2 whiteboards in our gym. We got Post-it notes all over the place. Like, we are always thinking, right? So instead of having a TV all over your gym, or TVs in every room, throw a whiteboard in there, because you're going to come up with ideas all the time, or things that need to be perfected in your company that pops up out of nowhere. Like, oh yeah, like that is a great idea. Like, but why don't we do it this way? Because if we do it this way, for example, we had technician yesterday basically called 5 different people in the office, whereas that person could have just called the owner or client directly and got the same answer, right? So like, okay, that's going to be a new process that we put into place. If you have a question regarding photos of the job, contact the owner directly, get the photos on our program, and all your questions will be answered.
Remind me quickly how long you've been in business as TMG Plumbing and Disaster Solutions?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Yep.
Okay, and then before that, you were something else, correct?
TMG Cleaning Services, doing business as TMG companies.
Yeah. We might. This might echo something from the first episode. You said about 2 years ago, you basically decided, all right, I got to make these changes. It still seemed like I heard of Tyler before I met Tyler. I knew who you were from, obviously, the people that were around in the network that we pretty much network with the same kind of people.
Yeah.
But, the gap between 2 years ago and previous years, how was business running? You have a really well-oiled machine. You seem disciplined. You seem like you care about your people. So I'm curious on what changed with that, because in 2 years, you can't get all that lined up without lining yourself up. But so I'm just wondering what that was like beforehand.
I think it was the kids, right? Because, if you are running, so it's like if you're in the restaurant industry, right? Like, you see people who own restaurants, those people don't have a life.
No.
So it's the same thing with a service business. If you are not setting yourself up to have a manager run it, supervisors, project managers, but all those people need the right training, but you can't give them the right training if you're in the field working with the guys, right? But they still need the training too, right? So like, okay, they're trained. All right, it's time to move on. All right, now it's time to train the project manager. All right, he's good. Now it's time to train the operations manager to have better processes. All right, why is Tyler still working on scheduling jobs? Why isn't the operations manager doing that? Or why is Tyler still ordering material for this job? Why isn't the project manager doing that? Right. So it all comes down to funneling this thing into where, Tyler's doing more of this, marketing the company, doing podcasts, meeting with people. That's what you should be doing as a business owner.
What do you want people to know about you?
I want to say that we are the area's leading one-stop shop for a disaster. From the plumbing to the mitigation to the final rebuild, there's nobody really doing it. I know Roto-Rooter tried to do it, but they failed as far as the mitigation goes, and they still weren't doing rebuild. Yeah. So I know a lot of companies are popping up all over the place trying to do plumbing or adding plumbing to their mitigation company. Some of the bigger hitters out there that are doing mitigation. But there's nobody really doing what we do. And it's nice for a homeowner to call us during an emergency. They got a sewage backup and they got 3 feet of sewage water in their basement. TMG's going to go there, snake out the drain, jet it, whatever we got to do, clean it all up and then put their house back together. I mean, that's like, how can you ask for anything else rather than having 5 different people waiting for the insurance company to figure out what they're doing and send out their contractor who probably won't even do it right.
Yeah. And so I guess I want to piggyback off that question, because people don't do business with people they don't like. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust, right? So I'm going to ask that question again about you. because again, I never, me personally, I never heard anything about you outside of any noise, and I'm never one to judge somebody based off of what somebody else says. The worst thing that I have encountered, or I have to tell people when they're talking about somebody else in the room, I'm always like, yo, don't talk about somebody that can't sit here to defend themselves, because it's just not good. Whenever it gets to that kind of gossip, not that I've ever heard that about you, but I've been in rooms where people are talking about other people and different things, blah blah blah. I'm like, this is kind of corny. What do you want people to know about you that maybe they misunderstand about you?
I mean, I've definitely had run into some trouble a few times.
Sure. We all have.
I'm not totally proud of, and I'm sure a lot of people know that, so, but again, it goes back to diving in and figuring out who you are as a person, because again, that was during a time where the business was, climbing a lot of, problems that we were running into, and going through growing pains. And at that point, I didn't really know who I was or what I wanted to be and where I was going. I was on like a roller coaster that had no end. So that's why I say it's important to have a manifesto, know who you are and where you're going, because or otherwise you're just kind of driving a ship with no destination.
Yeah.
So, after figuring out who I am as a person, after my kids, having a major life event, one, I never want to get arrested again, right? Because that's no fun, or seeing your name in the newspaper, or people saying bad things about you.
For sure.
That's not a good feeling, and a lot of that stemmed from alcohol abuse, right? Because when you're under the influence, all that stuff comes back up.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to work on yourself on a daily basis,
Right.
because the stress that we undergo is nothing anybody will ever understand.
Yeah.
So but they're quick to judge, right? So the stress that we undergo and having 15 people that you take care of, whether or not they're employees or not, that's your family. And you got to strive to put food on their plate, right?
Right.
Or strive to take care of your family, because, you got 4 of people that are your family, right? And then you have the other 15, who you want to take care of.
Right.
It's a lot for one person that, at that age that I was in my 20s, I had no idea what to do with that type of stress or responsibility. And I took it out in a negative way. So, figuring out who you are, you got to do that before you're a leader. That's why that book is I Am, right? And then Leader, how to lead a group of people to believe in the same thing that you believe in, right?
Yeah.
Like in my manifesto, we are the biggest well-known restoration company in the area.
Yeah.
Right? So how do I get a group of people that work for me to believe the same thing?
Right.
By knowing who I am and being present when I meet with them and talk to them. And we have our meetings as a team, and helping them believe the same thing that I believe in. And, the structure of our company with how we talk to clients and how we help them is how you do that.
Right. There's a Bible scripture that says, "Be not conformed by the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's one of my favorite scriptures. I believe it's Romans, I want to say 8:28.
Yeah.
I think it's 8:28. I could be wrong, but it's one of my my favorite Bible scriptures, because I think a lot of things that you have to accomplish in life do require a mindset shift, right? You can't accomplish, like right now I'm in the middle
100%.
I'm in the middle of this life insurance contest, which is really important to me, and my mindset shift went from it goes from not talking to people about life insurance, which is my duty because I have a fiduciary duty to anybody I do business with, to now making sure I don't hang up the phone without saying, "Hey, where's your life insurance policy? What do you have for life insurance?" And that's just a more granular level, obviously from a business standpoint. But I think anything that you have to do in life that you want to succeed in, and it's always going to be this constant renewing and transformation of your mind. When you're going through this process, what was the hardest thing that you had to face yourself? Like when you're looking yourself in the mirror, well, obviously you mentioned the abuse. I think that you know who George Janko is? So George Janko is a podcaster. Actually, he said something really interesting the other day that I'm going to talk about on a solo episode. But he's like a big influencer. But he goes, I used to look at people who drank alcohol or did drugs or did this, and used to look at them like that's their identity. But then I realized that they're doing it to mask something. It's attached to them. It is not them. So I give them a little more grace. And I was like, okay, I could dig that. That's something I thought was really interesting. It's bigger than just drinking alcohol. It's bigger than just smoking weed or just whatever the substance that people choose to do. When you're looking yourself in the mirror, what's the hard conversations that you're having with yourself? And I say this is, again, going back to the reason why I'm going this direction is people need to know, men, women, teenagers, they need to know that they're not the only ones that goes in their mind. I can sit there, look at myself in the mirror after a rough day, and if I chose to drink a little too much and be like, damn, Paul, you shouldn't be drinking like that or whatever. And you know, obviously there's actions and stuff that happen, whatever the case might be, but you can look yourself in the mirror and be really hard on yourself. What were those conversations like for you?
For me, with the alcohol,
With just as you're going through all of this of facing yourself
well,
to say, hey, I need to change.
3 weeks ago, I was like, dude, you gotta lose some weight, bro. You know what I mean? So, you know, because once you start diving deep, you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
Like,
What are you uncovering though? Like, what are you finding out about yourself? Because I think that's like one thing I learned about myself in this last, you know, it's May now, 15, 16 month, is that I love creating. Like, I'm really tapping into a side of me that I did when I was younger. I loved, you know, the editing and all that stuff. And now that I do the podcast and all that stuff, that's what I'm uncovering. What are you uncovering about you that maybe, you know, gets those dopamine hits? I heard something today that was like, the people who seek out dopamine in a rapid, quick way are the ones who are going to destroy themselves, right? Drinking, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're working out. That's not quit. That's not, you know, you go through, I don't know how long you work out, but you're putting yourself through strenuous activity. You know, you work your day to day, you know, you're a dad. Those kind of things are hard work, and there's no instant gratification, but the dopamine level is the same. So what are you uncovering about yourself throughout this?
So, well, since I love to write things down on large pieces of paper and whiteboards,
Yeah.
I'm really good at marketing. I love marketing and planning, and that's why I think I'm, because it does say in that book, right, to be a good leader is to sacrifice everything you have of your personal wants and needs, and you do. Like, you know, I don't know if my heart is ever going to open up 100%, like in general, like, because I'm just like, between the traumas and what I do on a daily basis, I'm so dialed in.
What do you mean though? Like, it not open up, like with people around you, or
Just in,
like,
not necessarily that, like I can connect well with people, but it's more of like the emotional.
So what you're saying is you still think that there's things packed in the closet that you don't know if you can really unravel?
Not necessarily that. I think I'm just a different breed.
Okay.
Like I just like, it's like that one set mindset, right? Like I sacrificed so much to get where I am as far as time and my days. So I guess that is one thing that I strive to be better at, and that hurts when I leave the house in the morning, is my kids, right? Like I just worked a 20-hour day.
Yeah.
Haven't seen them in 2 days. And you know, that's the toughest balancing act as an emergency service business owner. And not that I'm in the field all the time anymore, but if I got to go pick up a hammer with the guys, I will. You know, this week was a little nuts. We had back-to-back stuff going on. There was like the pump house in Mystic gave out, and we had like a whole street of houses backing up.
Damn.
So it's like, dude, I'm out there with the boys. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, and everybody needs a little bit of training. Like I said, I always give a little bit of attention to everybody. Like, you know, my brother's about to get his license. He's like our highest, you know, farthest along apprentice that we have.
How much of the call it a mental battle that we have, right? Like you just said, you know, man, I'm out for 20 hours. Like the kids, it's tough seeing them and doing that. But how much of that do you think is just a narrative that we're telling ourselves? Because what if they're just picking up the same good habits that you have now, the work ethic, the strive? Like, don't you, like, you know, if I pass away today, my wife is going to get a significant amount of life insurance for my children. I don't think that's going to change their life, right? Meaning the money aspect of it is not going to be something that is going to make their life maybe easier in the sense that like my income is replacing that. But going back to earlier, the happiness, the stress, and all that stuff. I saw something earlier today that was like some guy holding up a sign, and the sign was like, the only person that's going to know that you're working as hard as you are your kids who realize that you're not there.
Yeah.
But then I thought like,
Are they old enough to realize that yet, though?
correct. That's what I'm saying. You know
There's
what I
no
mean?
way my 2-year-old knows yet. He just
Even my 5-year-old, like who yes, he's, you know, especially because the way I frame it is I'm not with him 8 hours of the day anyway. From work, he's at school. He starts kindergarten next year, and you know, isn't this what I want him to see? When I'm with him, I'm still present. We play, we have fun, we laugh, we joke, poke him out, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I just feel like there's a little bit of a stigma or social pressure on what the right answer is. Because if you go back to you know, I think about even my wife's, you know, I didn't grow up with a dad, but I think about my wife's dad who went to law school. He was a teacher, went to law school. He was putting in hours and hours and hours, but look at the life that he provided. Right? I think ultimately it's being able to communicate with your children that you love them, to respect them, to respect others, because you as a father, you're always going to be there. So I just always wonder, like, is this a narrative that we're telling ourselves because of what society's telling us?
well, I have quite a few mentors, and some are very high level, and some are, you know, medium level.
Mm,
And the medium level is more of like, dude, you gotta like have balance. He's out of work at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
and he's on the boat at 4,
yeah.
living his best
For
life.
him, for himself, or with his family?
No, he has no kids or anything.
Okay.
But I'm like his son, right? So
Yeah.
like he's very big on balance and like shut your phone off when you're out of work
Mhm.
and enjoy your life. And
Sure.
he lives a phenomenal life. He takes months off at work and travels and he's happy,
Right.
right? Which is like I get that. Like
Mm.
that's kind of nice. But on the other side of me, because I like have that drive that I can't really understand why, it's just always there.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have something to prove, not to competition, not to um, your wife or significant other, but maybe to another version of yourself or to a family member or to, you know, because that drive comes from something. Like you might say, I don't know. But there is a motive to your drive. Is it your purpose to lead a team? Is it like, have you become so obsessed with the work that you do that helps others? You put food not just on your family's table, but 15 others' table, right? Because they're your employees. Are you obsessed with that, or is it something that's greater beyond that?
This is a great question because this is why I'm on this journey right
Mhm.
now, right? I don't really have an answer to that question because I thought it was trying to prove something to my dad, right? Because my parents had a company growing up
Mhm.
that kind of just fell apart. So I thought it was to prove something to them, but when they tell me they're proud of me, it's like I don't give a fuck, dude. Like
Yeah,
your opinion doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Um, so I think it's more of I think it's for myself
Mm.
to see how far I can push myself, which is probably not healthy, or maybe it is. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Because like I said, I have multiple mentors, right? Some
Sure.
have $1 billion company and some have a, 3, 4, or $5 million
Yeah.
company. And it's always intrigued me to see how far I can go,
Mhm.
right? Like, is it possible to have $1 billion company?
Yeah, and I'll say, like, you know, I also, like, even going back to this life insurance contest that we're in. So we go through this contest every year. It's from May to July, and this contest only breeds the best in the company. It's just strictly life insurance. Not a lot of people sell life insurance. For the first time, I'm on the leaderboard. I've been doing this company for 10 years. And for the first time, I'm on the leaderboard in this contest. I had gone through a little bit of a setback. I think so just quick, I left the company, came back, here I am. And even again, the years before that, I had never experienced what I'm experiencing now. It's almost like that runner's high.
Yeah.
I am literally number one in the nation right now in life submits. I should win the contest. We'll see what happens. But I feel like what I'm trying to prove is what people thought was my potential, right? When people look at you as a person and you get hired or you do work, people look at you and say, hey, he has so much potential. But then when you don't meet that expectation, I think that you start to get hard on yourself. And I feel like what I'm trying to do right now is prove that, right? Because I know that I'm good at everything that I do, or I at least make an attempt to get good at everything that I do. Like, I mean, you guys see this now, right? This is something that I take real pride in. And I didn't have this. And all of a sudden, like, I'm like, all right, I need to get something at the house. I need some, streamline it, open exchange. Like, let's get something really set up. I take pride in that. And I just know if I put my mind to something, I can do really well. I've experienced that in multiple facets in my life, not just in work, but it's always to prove a different version of myself wrong or right. So going back to, my 2 years ago, like I was just a mediocre sales rep. Now I'm like, I'm very direct. Like, what do you mean? Like, Tyler, you want to talk about life insurance? Okay, yeah, call me in a week. No, can we put it on your calendar? Can I send you an email? Is it because I'm not going to just call you and you not answering my phone call?
I think that's where a lot of people fail,
Mm.
and a lot of business owners in the area fail
Mm-hmm.
because they don't know sales. A lot of them are just plumbers, and they're not businessmen.
Right.
In general, like I always lock in the deal every time I'm with a customer in person.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of to stem off what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's to prove something, but I think it's also another addiction,
Okay.
right? Because a dopamine hit,
Yeah.
that's coming from the money
Yeah.
or making the deal happen. Or like when you buy a piece of real estate, that's a great dopamine hit.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us get confused with that dopamine hit because everybody thinks it's fun to flip a house.
Yeah.
We flipped multiple houses. I don't even know, probably 20-ish.
Mm-hmm.
That was the largest dopamine hit I ever had. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you made $10,
Yeah.
or you had to actually come with a check.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, man.
Everybody wants to chase the dopamine. Same thing in business, selling the deal, getting that big check for $150,000 on a fire job, right? Like we always are chasing something.
The difference though is that the dopamine you get from substance and the dopamine you get from hard work is sustainable. Substance is going the
Just
other
got to
direction.
stay healthy with it.
Yeah.
The balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because that's where you get lost. Because if you're chasing the money high and the dopamine high and the addiction from getting more likes or more views,
Mm-hmm.
or you're getting confused because it goes more towards your manifesto.
Right.
Because I got a manifesto for the company too.
Do you read it every day?
Yeah, I try to remind myself
Yeah,
why I'm doing what I'm doing,
yeah, that's
because
great.
again, it gets lost.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh shit, I didn't reach my sales goals,
Yeah.
but it's all right, dude. Like, you still killed it,
Yeah. Right.
and you helped a lot of people.
Right.
But it's a bigger vision. There's some weeks where we don't make as much money, but
Mm-hmm.
we grew the foundation of the company better,
Mhm.
so where it can run without me.
Yeah.
And which in turn is going to give me more time to, because at the end of the day, like you said before, yeah, there is people who say that, like the $1 billion mentor I have, he's like, oh yeah, dude, like I wouldn't take anything back and I hang out with my kids as much as I should have. And he's like, they have a wonderful life. Yeah, they have a wonderful life. But to your point, if I died tomorrow, I would have wished I spent more time with them.
Yeah, man.
So I don't know if there's an answer to what type of man you should be.
Mm-hmm. It's different for everybody. I think it's going to be different.
It's
for
your
everybody.
morals. It's your manifesto. It's why you need to have one,
Yeah.
right? Because you want to, every time I come home, my kid gives me the biggest hug and he's freaking smiling at me in his high chair. Because I usually come home around dinner time, right? He's cracking up and he comes, runs me and gives me a hug. That's a successful day, dude.
Yeah,
All the problems that you had just kind of wash away.
Yeah. I said that to, I don't know who, I think it was an episode or two ago. But you don't follow sports at all, do you? Baseball or anything like that?
I don't even watch any sports at all, which is probably bad because being a leader, it's like very in tune with sports.
No, I'll give you my feedback on that. But I'm a big Yankee guy, Yankees fan. I watch, see the baseball cards back
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yankees. Baseball was my life. I played it my entire life. CC Sabathia, he's a former pitcher for the New York Yankees. He's in the Hall of Fame right now. And he also dealt with, actually, ironically, some substance abuse while he was in the major leagues, which is really crazy because he's making $350 million a year, whatever, or not a year, throughout his career. And he's like, man, the one thing, I would have a bad start and I would be very upset. I would go to the locker room and drink. And he's like, when I get home, the kids don't see CC Sabathia, the pitcher. They see CC Sabathia, the dad. All that goes out the window. They don't give a shit about how I performed. They just want dad home. And that just goes to say that money does not solve $350 million throughout his career, probably more with that incentives and endorsements and all. None of that solves it. But I will say, choosing what your distractions are is important, right? For me, sports is something that I enjoy, and mainly baseball during the baseball season, a little bit of football during football season. But then there's people that choose reality TV. There's people that choose more unhealthier kind of things. And I believe that it's a distraction for a reason, right? Like if I choose to sit on the couch and watch a Yankee game for 3 hours at night while having a beer, it's like, dude, what could you be doing that's more productive?
Go to the gym.
Can't work out at night though, because if not, I'm up all night, man.
Get it over with in the morning.
I try to. I have a little space back there. I actually came across this documentary called Stutz, which is about Jonah Hill and his therapist. And Jonah Hill's actually filming this documentary, but his therapist doesn't know he's filming it about him. His therapist thought it was just a therapy session, and the entire time during the dialogue, Jonah Hill is like basically saying like, "This is what you helped me with." I don't know if I said this on your show, but there's a thing called the life force. I might have said it on the first episode that I did with you, but something called the life force where you focus on yourself physically, you focus on your relationships, and then you focus on your spirituality. And during that time, as I'm going through all of this anxiety and stress, I started doing that. And I found myself getting really back into like who I was and feeling great, working out all the time. I just felt awesome. And you really do feel good when you start prioritizing your physical self, your mental health, and all that stuff. So that's just a little bit of a story of understanding that when you put your priorities within yourself, possibilities are endless. The opportunity is endless.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. They're just looking for the quick fix, whether it's alcohol, drugs, going out on Friday night with the boys, probably drinking more than you should be. Or money, or flipping that next house because they think it's going to make them feel better if they have another 20 grand in their account when really they only made $10, or, and then you feel more let down when it didn't go the way you wanted it to. Mm-hmm. Whereas, the one thing you have control over is yourself, right? Like making it to church on a Sunday, which that is something that I've been lacking in, right? So like when I did go through the whole sobriety phase, that was one thing I really was back in tune with, going to church. And shout out to James Corby. He got me into that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He was a great person to have in my life during that time. So really, that's the only part that I need to get back into is spiritually, because whether it's God or spiritually, whatever you believe in, I feel like, yes, that is definitely part of the trifecta that you have to work on, right? Your health, your physical health, mental health, talking to somebody on a daily basis, or even like friends or people who you need a mentor for sure, because you got to be able to relate to the same problems, because who do you talk to that understands you?
Right.
Nobody really, not normal people, right? So, hey, I ran into this problem, dude. How did you overcome this? Or how did you talk to your team about this? Or how did you create this process, to avoid this problem? Or so it's really, I think everybody needs to have a mentor, and different kinds of mentors, right? Like a gym mentor, right?
Yeah.
And hang out with that person, have them in your circle, right? Not like a friend that just likes to party on a Friday night, but your team is everything, right? Like having a team with your financial advisor, having a team with your meeting with your CPA, having a meeting with your, the person that's training you, bodybuilding, your nutritionist. Like those people should be like on your best friend list, dude.
Sure.
Like,
there's a guy I had on. I don't know if you know him. His name is Samer Delgado. fam, and had him on probably maybe 10 episodes in. And he was like, when he was going through his transformation in his life, he had to decide whether or not he was going to still be around the people that he was or change that. And he said, there's 3 things that you need to change: is the people, the places, and the things that you're doing. That's the only way that you're going to change. And you're right. I mean, you are within that circle of people that you associated with. So if you're associating yourself with mediocre people, you're going to be mediocre. But if you're associating yourself with billionaires, millionaires, and people who want to thrive and succeed, naturally you're going to want to be like that.
Yeah, because you feel left out. I mean, look at this freaking dude over here, man. I like hanging out with Julian doing my videos. And I'm like, damn, bro, I got to get back at the gym, dude. This guy's making me look bad. So you're naturally always going to veer towards who you hang out with.
Sure.
Show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
That's right.
That's from Scott Gladstone. I don't know if you know Scott, but he told me that a while ago, and it resonated so well with me. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. It's phenomenal. Because it's true, like, hanging out with Travis, Julian.
And it's okay too, right? It's okay to cut people off. And I think that's the thing, right? I think we feel like, especially as you navigate.
You don't owe them anything.
Some of my best friends I'm still best friends with. And some of my best friends I was friends with then, I'm actually better friends with them now, or, not equally as good as friends. But that's the progression of life, man. And that's okay. Yeah. I think that you go through life, and at the end of the day, you leave by yourself, right? You get to choose in this short period of time. I'll be 36 in a couple of months. You just turned 31, 32?
Yeah, 31.
You just turned 31. Like, it's moving very fast, right? And I need to dedicate my time, my life, to the best possible people and things that I want to accomplish. And I can't do that with people who are going to, I don't want to say hating, but like, just don't move me forward. You know what I mean?
And everybody's watching what you're doing.
That's right.
We have a lot of people watching what we're doing right now.
That's right.
And I don't even pay attention.
Nah,
That's the
me
funny
neither,
thing.
man. I don't pay attention. I
don't even look. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the competitors that we run into, like, people don't like us. And it's like, dude, if you called me for a question, I would answer it.
Mm-hmm.
If you called me, needed something, I would answer it.
Yeah.
I'd be there for anybody.
I heard something back in the days that if somebody's not talking about you, you're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Somebody's always got something to say, especially today where, it's very easy to just have an opinion about everything and everyone.
Yeah.
So a few minutes left here. I want to give you the opportunity to, promote what you're working on. I thought I'm really trying to tap into the, you said it earlier before we started recording, is the humanizing people. And if you haven't picked that up, that's what I tried to do here. Actually, I looked at this once. It didn't even go along that. But I'm really trying to humanize people, because I think that when you look, especially social media, not you specifically, but I mean, I think at a glance, when you look around everywhere, you only see this, and there is a bias that is formed based off of appearance. And I try to humanize the person as much as possible on my show, and that's what the open exchange is going to become, and is going to continue to evolve into. But that being said, I still have that fundamental layer of your platform podcast. The reason why I started doing a podcast is because I want people also to promote what they're working on. So what do you guys got going on right now?
Well, right now we are we are in mold season, right? So the humid, the rain, the hot weather. So we got a blast coming out today, actually, for more geared towards mold, because it is mold season. So we are offering 10% off any mold services, whether it is insurance or not. Use promo code MOLD10 and you get 10% off. If you're on our email list, you'll be receiving this today. But that is something that we're promoting right now. And if you haven't followed us yet,
I would say shout out to what you guys are doing on social media.
TMG Disaster Master.
Yeah.
And we do TMG tips of the day. It'll save you guys tons of money.
You guys are pumping content crazy, man. That's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. So do you have a content day? You must have a content day.
We do it on Fridays actually today. So
that's kind of what I'm shifting to too. Is just I've been doing a lot of life insurance videos lately, and now I'm going to be do a little homeowners insurance stuff. But same thing. Content has to be one dedicated day to just pump out all the videos, and I'll just do the editing over the weekend and just strip it out.
Yeah, TMG tip of the day seems to be doing well because you want to build trust in the community. People want to trust you, and it's not always about just selling, right? So you want people to trust you and give them helpful information.
Mhm.
So that seems to be doing well, and you want to stay routine to what you're doing, right? What anything that you're doing, because I see a lot of people trying to get into it, and they're just all over the place, right? It's a
Yeah,
mess. So
yeah.
you gotta pick something and stick to it, right?
Mhm,
Like the biggest things we notice, people love to see what we're doing in the field.
mhm.
People love the on the job stuff, the crazy stuff that we see,
Yeah,
the
that's cool.
disasters,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then people want to know helpful information so that we build trust in the community, which we are, right? So it's a big part of the networking pie, right? So and then it's sharing it on all platforms. And, like I said before, ads are a big thing that,
Mhm.
a lot of people aren't doing that's affecting their business because I don't even care SEO or not. Like if you have a website, you're in the stone ages now
Yeah.
because if you're not buying ads, you're not on top of Google.
I saw something actually, just to piggyback off that, that there is a way now to put your offerings into ChatGPT because 46, I think it was 46% of searches on business products is going through ChatGPT, where you can input your stuff and people can find you
Hmm.
through that. So even that, like SEO is going to die just simply because of what people are preferring from a ChatGPT standpoint.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't even have websites, and then like I said, SEO alone ain't gonna do it anymore.
No, no, definitely not.
Between AI and ads, Google Guaranteed, Google Leads, social media, I mean, that's like a way of the past now. So, if you're not into any type of marketing or videos or reels, like
Dead,
you're gonna get
dead.
smoked out.
Bro, I was telling somebody the other day, since I started doing these life insurance videos, I've gotten like 10 leads just from the
Oh
videos.
yeah,
Like
and that has nothing to do with insurance.
nothing.
Yeah,
Like I basically put out like just some quick facts about life insurance, and then there's no call to action. There's not like you need to call me. It's just like did you know this?
it's your brand.
People are like, no, I
You.
didn't, and then they'll message me, and there you go. So
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Always good. Always excited to see your content. Always excited to see. I'm actually very excited to see how you evolve. And it's going to inspire other men like myself and other people around to evolve along with you and really just be the best versions of ourselves. So it's exciting.
You can do and be whatever you want to be. The biggest piece of advice I got is just focus on yourself, find yourself, because a lot of us don't even know who we are
Hmm.
anymore. So figuring that out is the first step, and then be something unique that everybody's doing the same thing. Stop doing what everybody else is doing and do it the opposite way. Swim against the current and piss people off.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
that's how
I
you
like that.
that's how you
Stand out.
stand out.
That's how you
Yeah.
stand out. Be a contrarian.
Yep.
Be a contrarian. Tally
Yeah.
Gonzales, TMG Plumbing Disaster Solutions. I really appreciate it, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Yep.